Imagine the fresh air drifting into your tent as you overlook the side of a mountain, or waking up to the sound of the ocean in your hammock on a tropical beach. The sleeping system you choose on your bike trip determines where you can camp, how well you sleep, and I believe ultimately how much you enjoy your adventure. So in this video, I'm breaking down everything you need to know to pick the right sleeping system for your bikepacking or cycle touring trip. Why your sleeping system matters. Your sleeping setup affects so many parts of your bike trip. Your comfort, your safety, and even the route you can ultimately choose. Some sleeping systems are super light and minimalist. Others are bulkier and a lot more protective. Some can be cheap, some can be expensive, and ultimately the decision-making process can be quite daunting. But with a bit of information and by asking yourself some key questions, you can make a wise decision. That's what I'm hoping to help you do today so that you can get some better sleep and enjoy your camping and riding that much more. So what type of sleeping systems are there? In my eyes, there are four main types: freestanding tents, non-freestanding tents, bivvies, and hammocks. They all have their pros and cons, and ultimately your decision will come down to where you want to ride, how long for, what your comfort preferences are, and what your budget is. So let's quickly run through each of these types. The first sleeping system we're going to look at is the freestanding tent. Go on then. What does freestanding mean? Freestanding refers to a tent that can support its own weight with just its poles. It doesn't need stakes or guidelines to hold its shape. This makes freestanding tents easy to pitch on any surface, whether that's rocky or sandy ground. Because of this, they're usually a bit heavier due to the weight of the poles and the structure. But the pros are that you have an incredibly flexible setup and a durable tent. The cons are that it may be a little bit bulkier and a little bit heavier. So when would I use a freestanding tent? For me, these tents are the ultimate option for long distance cycle touring or bikepacking if you have the space. You'll have maximum comfort, maximum safety, and this tent will never impact the route you can take. You'll always be able to camp and sleep safely. The upside is if you have the budget, you can still get a freestanding tent that doesn't weigh that much. The Hubba Hubba I have behind me weighs around 1.4 kilos. But the huge advantage to me is that with a freestanding tent, you can set this up anywhere. And as you'll find out on your cycle tours and bikepacking trips, you'll be offered camp spots that you can't even imagine right now. One that springs to mind for me is being offered to camp at a fire station that didn't have any outdoor areas, but they did have a ton of mosquitoes. So you're just able to chuck up the tent freestanding, put it inside, and you have a bug net and a place to sleep for the night. So this is a non-freestanding tent from sea to summit. It's actually semi-freestanding, so it does partially hold its shape, but this is just to give you an idea of the differences. So this tent relies on stakes and guidelines to give it tension and hold itself up. It does still have poles. Some non-freestanding tents don't have poles, but at the very least fewer poles. They are typically lighter and smaller packed than freestanding tents, but they do need firm ground to really get the tension you need for them to hold their proper shapes. So the pros: lightweight, compact, and the cons: harder to pitch on rocky ground, hard ground, difficult terrain, so they are just less flexible. When would I use these tents? I use my Sea to Summit for my bikepacking setups where I have reduced volume and I want to reduce that weight. Here you can save yourself a few hundred grams and a fair bit of volume, but still maximize that safety and comfort value. If I was going on a long bike tour, whether that's bikepacking or cycle touring setup, I'd make a judgment call on whether it's a good idea to take a non-freestanding tent. Do I ever think I'm going to be camping in some random situations like the fire station or on rocky ground where I really don't have a choice to move on and find the firm ground I need? If that's ever going to be an option, then maybe a non-freestanding tent isn't the way to go. The Bivy Sack. This is a minimalist, ultralight, waterproof shelter, which can pretty much only fit your sleeping bag in. It's great for solo cyclists or travelers who want to keep weight and bulk super low. So the pros are that it's extremely light and super quick to set up. You can be in this thing in minutes. The cons are that there is less ventilation. It can get hot and clammy in there very quickly, limited space, and there isn't a lot of protection from the elements. You can take a rain tarp to cover yourself from rain, but even in those situations, you can end up getting wet. It's also something to consider if you're camping in the cold, that going directly from the bivvy to a cold external temperature can be quite dangerous sometimes. So when would I use a bivvy? I take similar considerations to the non-freestanding tent in that I will consider a bivy when space and weight are a big concern. And for that reason, my bivy is pretty much reserved for race situations only. I do know some cyclists that have taken bivy setups on long distance tours, and I think it is an okay option if weight and bulk is a key concern of yours. However, you do need to be aware that in adverse weather conditions, you will not really be able to use the sleeping setup, so you will be using hotels and hostels more. As long as you're okay with that, then I think it's an okay option. I much prefer on long distance tours to enjoy the camping process and setup, and I find it's way more enjoyable in a tent. The hammock. Now, apologies, I don't own a camping hammock, so we'll be using my garden hammock to demonstrate this today. Hammocks are typically suspended between two trees and can be paired with a rain tarp, bug net, and potentially an insulating sleeping mat as well. They're great for warm climates and forested areas. The main pros are that they're fairly light and compact, and if you find them comfortable, then they'll offer you comfortable sleep. What are the cons? Well, the major one is that you need trees or supports wherever you're going, so you can't camp everywhere, and it can be cold without the proper insulation. So when would I use a hammock? I am not the biggest fan of hammocks, if we're being honest. I'm a side sleeper and I find that I can't get to sleep very easily in them. My advice would be, if you're watching this video and you're unsure of which sleeping system might be for you, don't pick a hammock unless you're absolutely certain that you love them already. For me, they don't offer a big enough volume or weight advantage for me to recommend them. Having said that, I've met a few hammock users on my travels that all absolutely love and swear by them, and if that's you, absolutely fair play. I just can't see a use for them unless you really love hammocks. So which should you choose? This is the big question, and your decision will essentially come down to these things. 1. Weight and pack size. Put simply, will it fit in your bikepacking or pannier bags? If it doesn't, you'll need something smaller. 2. Climate. Are you expecting rain, cold weather, tons of bugs? These will all impact your decision. 3. Terrain. Will you be on flat, perfect ground, or are you going to be camping on mountainsides, on rocky ground, or in fire stations? 4. Setup time and complexity. Do you need something that can be whipped up like a bivy very quickly and you can be inside sleeping? Or do you have more time to carefully set up your camping spot and enjoy the process? 5. It's a big one. Budget. Gear ranges from budget friendly all the way up to premium. Deciding what you can afford and what you're going to spend is a big first step. 6. Durability and comfort. The more you do spend, normally, the better the gear, the longer it will last, potentially the more comfortable it will be. And finally, a big one for me, 7, is the duration of your trip. If you're on a long distance tour, the climate and terrain will vary dramatically, and you need to be more flexible with your sleeping system. If you're on a short trip and you know you're going to be camping in campsites along the whole way, it's a very different decision. The final thing to note with any of these sleeping systems, whether it's a bivy, tent, hammock, is that you will also need 3 more things to complete the setup. The first is a sleeping pad or mat. This keeps you insulated from the ground and makes a massive difference in keeping you warm. Even in a hammock, an insulated pad, mattress, quilt will protect you from the cold air seeping in. Second, you'll need a sleeping bag rated to the temperatures that you'll be sleeping in. It's getting windy. Don't overlook this rating because being too hot or too cold all impacts your sleep. And finally, a pillow. This one is optional. For me, it's an absolute game changer. You can just use a stuff sack filled with clothes. Doesn't do it for me. I always take an inflatable pillow. I might go into more detail into those 3 things in another video, but I put some suggestions as to what I'm using down below. So no matter which shelter type you go for, your sleeping system is really a combination of all of these things working together to keep you dry, warm, comfortable. That is the video, people. What's your current sleeping system? Have you got a favorite setup or a horror story from a trip? Drop a comment below. I love hearing your stories and your questions. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Really helps the channel grow. And I've got a new video coming out each week, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Catch you in the next one.